We're going to talk about the requirements a lender needs to help borrowers be able to qualify for a mortgage with the lower student loan payment. So what is required to be submitted to the lender so that underwriting can accept a lower student loan payment? What happens when you come out of school and you exit the grace period? I'm coming with you today to discuss my screen share. What's on my screen is a student loan servicer letter. We're going to talk about the requirements a lender needs to help borrowers be able to qualify for a mortgage with the lower student loan payment. So what is required to be submitted to the lender so that underwriting can accept a lower student loan payment? If you see, let me zoom in here. This person's file is $19.84, as you can see right here. So this is a borrower LoanSense has helped enroll into an income-driven plan. So this borrower, you could see we redacted their name and all their identifying information for the purpose of this video. But today will be a short video on what is required to submit for the mortgage underwriting process for conventional loans like Freddie and Fannie, as well as FHA, to be able to originate the mortgage with a lower student loan payment. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about this letter, but first I want to talk about what happens when you come out of school and you exit the grace period. A borrower gets a 10-year fully amortized student loan payment. What that means is, let's say you borrow $40,000 for undergrad. Your servicer will automatically assume that you're going to pay off the entire loan plus interest over 10 years, 120 payments. The purpose of the income-driven plan is to say, if you cannot afford, let's say it's around a $500, almost $480 payment, depending on the interest rate, somewhere around that, for $40,000. Let's say you can't afford that. Your income suggests that you can pay less than that, then you enroll into an income-driven plan. How do you qualify for mortgage with this income-driven plan rather than the $450? Because for a lot of people, $450 will take up too much of their monthly income and it will qualify them for less home. So how can you get into a mortgage with let's say the government says you can only afford $19.84. How do you get into a home with that instead of a $480 payment that will literally give you $400, if you're the borrower, $450, around $60 plus more home, right? So that's literally could be that's literally around over $60,000, depending on the interest rate and how much you put down, more home that you can qualify by enrolling into this income-driven plan, plus qualifying to get the loans forgiven, not just say you're going to pay $19 for the rest of your life, right? But there's still a time limit to how much you're going to pay. It may not be 10 years, depending if you're a public servant. But now we're going to talk about the requirements to actually be able to have lenders and mortgage underwriting teams at most lenders. And I say most because some lenders have their own stricter requirements, right? So again, this is most lenders following the government rules, which regulate the secondary market. So that's a brief overview. So the first thing is that the letter must be dated. This is the requirement. Well, actually, the first thing is the letter, yes, must be dated, and the letter must be dated within 60 days of the mortgage loan close date. So obviously this says March 4th, 2023, because I'm just pulling a sample letter from our database. But in this instance, it would need to be 60 days within close. Now it's 2024. This is out of date. But let's pretend this says March 4th of 2024. And let's say I want to close on my home in the next week. And this said March 4th of 2024. This letter would qualify, right? Because it's within 60 days of my mortgage close date. A second item, very important, is it must be on the servicer letterhead. So right here, it says MOHELA, Federal Student Aid. This suggests that it comes from your servicer, a legitimate source. That's the second requirement. Another requirement is that your first scheduled due date for this plan must also be 60 days within close. Again, let's pretend this is 2024 for the purpose of this example, and I close within the next 2 weeks, it would be within the 60-day period, suggesting that it's not like I'm paying $500 for the next 2 months and then the plan goes into effect or something, you know? And again, there's very specific ways you file your paperwork because you can defer a plan for later, actually, right? You could say, depending if you're in school or making repayment. So there's specific ways to file to actually make sure you're getting in repayment at a lower payment. If you need it for mortgage underwriting, there's specific ways you file the paperwork that allow you to do this. So like I mentioned, the third requirement is that the plan must, your scheduled due date must be within 60 days of close. Of course, it must have the mandated new payment amount as the fourth requirement. And the final requirement is that this is very important. It must say the number of monthly payments scheduled for this plan, it must say 12. So if you go inquire for this letter from your servicer, let's say you're closing in May, I'm just making this up. Let's say you're closing in May and it's beyond the 60 days of the dated letter or the first scheduled payment, right? You must get a new letter, but it must say 12 payments, okay? So if you go get a new letter in 2 months and it says 10 payments, this letter is not going to work. You have to have a letter that says 12 months. And how a lot of people do that, how we help a lot of people is we just re-enroll them, recertify the plan, but we do it in a way that we can understand what the expected payment's going to be so that we can help explain to you and your lender what the anticipated payment is going to be. So I hope this was a very clear overview. This person is, it doesn't even matter for the purpose of the student loan plan, for the purpose of mortgage, what exact income-driven repayment plan does not matter as long as they have all the 5 requirements I talked about. The date on the letterhead having the servicer, the due date of the payment, having 12 months of payments from 60 days of close, of course, and having the new monthly payment being something that the borrower can ultimately qualify in the debt to income. This is a perfectly good example of a letter, assuming that I'm closing within 60 days of the stated letter, okay? I hope those parameters and specifications helped. If you have any more questions, LoanSense is a service that can help lenders not just identify borrowers by doing a loan pipeline review for lenders. We can identify borrowers we can help save, but then we can also invite them through, enroll their paperwork, and get them these documents that you see right here to close for the mortgage in a guideline compliant manner. If you're a borrower, of course, we can help you. You can come directly to myloansense.com and get started and get a completely free plan in the app. If you are a lender, we schedule demos all the time, including weekly trainings to help you understand how we can help you uplift loan volume. 12 plus loan alerts we send out per lender a week in terms of helping identify opportunities where we can help borrowers go from above 45 debt to income to under 45, as well as have $100 plus of monthly loan savings, which can boost affordability. If you're in either of those categories, we would love to help. We will attach this sample letter in a download in the description below so that you can see what a sample letter looks like. If you are having issues, getting the right documentation or need help or not, or pulling documents that do not have all the requirements for mortgage underwriting and are having a hard time, we are here on standby as well. Or if you're a lender having a hard time helping your borrower get the right docs, we are here as well. And again, if you like this type of content, you're a borrower or you're a lender, please hit subscribe, like, and share. Have a good rest of the week.